Coming up next, this is the craziest rock and roll story you're ever going to hear, likely. In 1979, a Hall of Fame guitarist for one of rock's biggest bands announced that he was running for president of the United States of America. He had a campaign promise of free gas for everyone if he won. His antics became world famous from there. He actually tried to circumcise his famous singer in his band when he was drunk. He drove a Lincoln Town Car into a hotel swimming pool. That's nothing, because he caused hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage when he took a chainsaw to another hotel room. He was banned from every hotel in America. This was his theme song for his failed campaign, which was the autobiography of his legendary hedonism. The crazy story of this song and his campaign and his antics coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you wore out the batteries of your Walkman faster than your allowance or wallet could keep up when you were growing up, you're going to enjoy this channel. I did that all the time. Make sure to subscribe below right now and to check the box so you don't miss out on our latest interviews. We got plenty coming this year. And to check out even more content and to support our mission of keeping the music alive, make sure to check out our Patreon link below. We're adding to it all the time. There was a time when Joe Walsh flirted with disaster so many times and wound up smelling like a rose, he was convinced that he was invincible. He could just keep the party going as long as he wanted to, and he had the power to stop anytime he wanted to. In 1977, he decided to put it all on paper and write a satirical song about his shenanigans and spoils of fame. Joe titled his autobiography, Life's Been Good. In Life's Been Good, Joe led us into the private life of a flippant rock star. Sure, he liked having nice things, but he was really only in it for a good time. Joe told us about a mansion that he had, but he forgot the price.
I have a mansion, forget the price.
He was singing about the mansion he bought in Santa Barbara, California, actually. That was just after he joined the Eagles in 1976. Because of 2 solid years of touring and recording all over the country since he bought the palace, Joe was never there.
Ain't never been there, they tell me it's nice.
He didn't have a Maserati when he wrote the song, as he claimed in the lyrics that he did. Following the success of Life's Been Good, Walsh bought one so that he wouldn't disappoint his fans.
My Maserati does 185.
It's my favorite part of the song, the Maserati. Although he never did push the speed to 185 as the song goes, Joe said that he chickened out at around 145 miles per hour. Joe once lost his wallet and his driver's license was inside the wallet.
I lost my license, now I don't drive.
He often rode in limos, indulging in the back.
I have a limo right in the back.
Joe had an office with gold records on the wall and an old school answer machine that was just constantly full of unreturned messages.
Just leave a message, maybe I'll call.
Everybody that ever went to a party with Joe Walsh, they knew that they were in for a long night. And along those lines, there was another humorous bit of nonfiction in the lyric. I go to parties sometimes until 4. It's hard to leave when you can't find the door.
I go to parties sometimes until 4.
At one soiree, Walsh attempted to leave at a respectable hour, but he was so obliterated, he entered a walk-in closet, mistaking it for the front door to exit the party.
It's hard to leave when you can't find the door.
Another true Joe Walsh confession is found in verse 1, where Joe states, matter-of-factly, I live in hotels, tear out the walls, I have accountants to pay for it all.
I live in hotels, tear out the walls.
Walsh learned Hotel Room Demolition 101 from rock and roll's master prankster, The Who's Keith Moon. I guess the two met in the early 70s when Joe's old band James Gang opened for The Who, and Walsh and Moon immediately hit it off. But that wasn't a good thing. Walsh stated in the documentary History of the Eagles that the scariest day of his life was when Keith Moon decided that he liked me. Moon the Loon, as he was called, took Walsh under his wing, and he taught him all about how to trash hotel rooms. Moon had some all-time doozies, like the time he punctured a waterbed in the room that flooded into the hallway, and the time he drove a Lincoln Continental into a third-floor swimming pool. and when he chopped up all the furniture in his room with a hatchet in a Holiday Inn located in Saskatoon, Canada. The last two stunts got Moon a lifetime ban at Holiday Inns in all of North America. Joe Walsh imitated his mentor by throwing TVs off balconies, blowing things up, and tearing down wallpaper. Joe's favorite act of destruction was tearing out a hotel wall with a chainsaw. It was a chainsaw that was a visible part of his luggage upon check-in, which gave the hotel staff a lot of concern. In one of his most infamous escapades, Joe Walsh went on a tear in Chicago with the late comedy legend John Belushi, himself a notoriously reckless personality. Walsh and Belushi started by wreaking havoc at a restaurant when they were denied entrance because they were wearing jeans. So apparently they painted their pants black to get in and ended up in the kitchen trying to take over for the chef. Later that night, the partners in crime proceeded in causing more than $28,000 worth of damage at the hotel that Walsh and the Eagles were staying in. You think about $28,000, back in 1977, that would be well over $100,000 in 2022. Unbelievable. Walsh was also banned from nearly every hotel that he ever stayed at in the 1970s. So let me take a second here to mention our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I'm always wearing. One of the features of Zenni that I love most about their frames are the vibrant and the sensational colors that they have, especially their brand new frames. You can actually see how you look before you order with Zenni's mirror feature. Go take a look at Zenni.com. Okay, so back to it. So on the road, Joe Walsh would get so wasted, he sometimes would just flat lose his mind, like the time he attempted a botched circumcision of Don Henley in 1977 after the Day on the Green concert in Oakland, California. True story. This one's hard to believe. It was a superstar festival with Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, the Doobie Brothers, Steve Miller Band, and Foreigner. They all topped a heavyweight bill, can you even imagine? So following the concert, the bands got together for some heavy-duty partying. Around 4 a.m., Walsh got bored after super gluing the room furniture to the ceiling. And he saw a passed out Don Henley lying naked on the hotel room floor. And that's when he got the crazy idea to perform a skin procedure with a Swiss Army knife he was not licensed to do, while Foreigner's Mick Jones and Steve Miller were looking on. Walsh's alteration was botched, and Henley was rushed to the hospital when he awakened in severe pain. Now, Henley survived, of course, with his faculties intact, but as you can imagine, he was permanently scarred. Thinking about that just brings me pain. I don't think that's what the Eagles meant with the lyrics, "Life in the fast lane surely makes you lose your mind."
Life in the fast lane surely makes you lose your mind.
You would think that a stunt like that would cost Joe Walsh his friendship with Henley, maybe get him kicked out of the band forever. Henley certainly had the right to press charges against Joe Walsh, but Don shrugged it off. They all look back on the incident and just laugh about it.
I'm just looking for clues at the scene of the crime.
Life's Been Good first appeared on the soundtrack for the movie FM. The original 8-minute version was included on Walsh's 4th solo album, but seriously, folks, and the LP featured the talents of Walsh's 4 Eagles bandmates, Henley, Glenn Frey, Schmidt, and Felder, along with former Spirit and JoJo Gunn singer-songwriter Jay Ferguson, who performed keyboards on the record. You probably remember Jay from his yacht rock classic. Because of his autobiographical content, one would think that, but seriously, folks, revolved around Life's Been Good, but the track was dangerously close to being scrapped, actually. Bill Simsick, producer of But Seriously Folks, and also longtime Eagles producer, he remembers that Joe Walsh began second-guessing himself. He was worried that the song would be perceived as condescending. Walsh's intention was to create a song that was funny without coming across like he was being a jerk. Eventually, Simsick and drummer Joe Vitale convinced Walsh that the audience would understand that he was just being facetious, that being on top doesn't necessarily mean anything. In other words, Joe Walsh doesn't need to take himself too seriously, hence the name of the album.
Fortune and fame, everybody's so different.
The foundation that Walsh used to construct Life's Been Good was that iconic guitar riff that he thought would be a great starting point to make a song. He then had another intersecting riff that complemented the main line, and then put together some, Bob Marley reggae influence.
I like the doors in case I'm attacked.
Walsh played an ARO Odyssey synthesizer to accompany his lead guitar riff in the middle of the track. In fact, the entire musical arrangement for the song was developed well before the lyrics were completed. In the studio, producer Billy Simsick recorded Life's Been Good as 2 different tracks. The part of the song that didn't have lyrics as one track, and the parts that would include lyrics as the other track. Simsick knew that there was a plan for some kind of a breakdown, or a solo in the middle of the song. So he set aside a 3rd track as an extra contour. Simsick described the development of Life's Been Good as a schizophrenic way to record a song, but anyone who knew Joe Walsh, the clown prince of rock, considered the source. Joe's process for song structure was always like putting together an incongruent jigsaw puzzle. It was Simsick's job to make all the parts fit into one of rock's ultimate choice cuts, for sure. Simsick implemented the call and response pattern in the pre-chorus of the 2nd and 3rd verse of Life's Been Good in that section. The first response, "Everybody Say I'm Cool," is sung by Simsick, followed by Vitale and Joe's 3rd wife, Jody Boyer, singing He's Cool. They do the same call and response in the pre-chorus after the 3rd verse that's sung by Simsick. The perfectly timed sound of a door closing after Joe Walsh's humorous lyric about it being hard to leave when you can't find the door, that was recorded in real time by Vitale by shutting the door to the Bayshore studio bathroom. It was done with a U87 microphone placed about 3 feet away in the hallway.
It's hard to leave when you can't find the door.
At the very end of the extended LP version, 10 seconds after the song fades out, the production crew added a clip that they recorded as an inside joke with Joe jokingly declaring,
"Uh-oh, here comes a flock of wham-whams,"
followed by a choral of it sounded like a raft of ducks. Life's Been Good was the biggest solo hit for Joe Walsh. It grinded up the Billboard Hot 100 to number 12, and it remains one of the most played classic rock tracks since its release in May of 1978. And in 1979, after watching what he called ridiculous political speeches by Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, Joe made another tongue-in-cheek move when he announced his candidacy to run for president of the United States in the 1980 election, where Reagan challenged Carter, the incumbent commander-in-chief. Walsh, also known as Average Joe, ordinary average guy,
We're just ordinary average guys.
he proclaimed that Life's Been Good would be the new national anthem, and if he won, he promised free gas for everyone. I think people would go for that these days. But seriously, folks, gas prices went from 87 cents a gallon in 79 to an average of $1.19 a gallon in 1980. And Ronald Reagan crushed every candidate to start the Reagan era in America from 1980 to 1988.
That I will do my utmost to justify your fate.
Yeah, I remember hearing Life's Been Good all the time when I was growing up, when I was working with my dad in his paint shop. He used to pay me to sweep out his shop when I was younger, wait for me to earn money to buy records and tapes. My dad had this 8-track player, and speakers really loud, and he'd sing like a hooligan, and he'd give me his blow-by-blow commentary of all the songs and his memories of them. It just really made me appreciate this classic song especially. It's actually how I learned what a Maserati is. I asked my dad when I heard it referenced, and my dad explained it to me along with his interpretation of the song's meaning. And ever since it's been gone, it means so much more. Now when I hear the song, it just makes me smile. The success of Life's Been Good happened when Walsh was at his most reckless and his most delusional. He thought he could keep up his heavy vodka and substance abuse because in his head, like I said, he could stop anytime that he wanted to. He just didn't see the danger. Quite the opposite, really. Walsh subscribed to the myth that sobriety kills a rock and roller's mojo. It was as if he feared sobriety. He truly believed at that point that following the path of the tortured greats like Jimi Hendrix and Ernest Hemingway and emulating reckless spirits like John Belushi and Keith Moon meant that you had to experience every extreme possible.
They say I'm crazy, but I have a good time.
It took a long time for Joe Walsh to realize what should have been obvious. The artists that he idolized, they were all dead. And he had to ask himself, is that what I want to happen to me? It took an intervention from Don Henley and Glenn Frey when they patched things up and wanted to put together an Eagles reunion in 1994, appropriately called Hell Freezes Over Tour. Don Henley and Glenn Frey gave Walsh an ultimatum. If you want to be part of this, no more Wildman Joe. Now, they also issued a challenge to Joe. Can you, will you get yourself clean and sober to rejoin the band and save your life? It was a compelling reason for Joe Walsh to get rid of the alcohol and drugs for good. Now, to Joe's credit, he hasn't fallen off the wagon ever since, not even once. More than likely, if he hadn't made the commitment to clean up right then and there, probably would have ended up like his manic buddies John Belushi and Keith Moon, sadly.
Lucky I'm sane after all I've been through.
Kind of shocking that he somehow sidestepped the same fate. Surviving all those years of debauchery even baffled Walsh.
Life's been done to me so far.
As the last two lines that he wrote to finish off his musical autobiography go, I keep on going. Guess I'll never know why. Life's been good to me so far. Life got really good for Joe once he cleaned up, culminated by being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the other integral members of the Eagles, Henley, Frey, Schmidt, Felder, Meisner, and Leiden in 1998. Through it all, Joe can't complain. But sometimes he still does.
I can't complain, but sometimes I still do.
Leave us a comment about Joe Walsh, the Wild Man. What are your memories of the song and his output in the 70s and 80s? What about when the Eagles reformed? Share your thoughts and memories below. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe below so that you never miss out on our videos. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth.